Welcome to Monitoring the Success of Your Efforts, Module 3 Monitoring Plans. During this introduction, you may want to take a moment and adjust the volume on your computer so that you can clearly hear the audio. This is the second lesson within the Monitoring Plan module, which is the final module in the Monitoring the Success of Your Efforts series. During the first lesson, you were exposed to monitoring plans and began to draft a plan of your own. After the completion of that lesson, you should have also decided on your monitoring questions and reviewed your goals to ensure that they were written as SMART goals. In the next 3 lessons, we will address additional elements within your plan, such as deciding on what data to use to address each of your monitoring questions, determining if there's a group of students that you would like to use as a comparison, making sure that you have a mechanism for tracking your program participants, and determining who is responsible for specific tasks as well as a timeline for their completion. Now that you have your monitoring questions, it's time to consider where you will get the data to address each of these questions. There are many sources of data and many ways to measure improvement. As we walk through some of the data that is available to you, it is helpful to consider the distinction between indicators, data sources, and measurement options. An indicator is a data element such as suspension rates or end-of-grade test scores, whereas data source refers to the location of the data, how you will access it. The data source sometimes varies for school and central service staff. Now, for any given indicator, you may have multiple measurement options. A measure of your success reflects exactly how you will examine your improvement on a chosen indicator. For example, you may select end-of-grade achievement as an indicator and increased proficiency from one year to the next as a measure. If you select a measure that is readily available to you on a standard report, it will take much less time than if you collect the data and attempt to analyze it yourself. Additional information, including a table of examples of indicators and measures for both achievement and behavioral outcomes, can be found on the Resource tab and is entitled Determining Indicators of Your Success. Okay, let's consider some available data sources. If you have a completed data inventory, select data sources from that as much as possible. If not, then create a checklist to see more clearly what data is available to you to help address each of your monitoring questions. A copy of the Data Sources for Project Monitoring form is available on the Resource tab for this module. The data sources listed in the column heading here are common ones, but these will vary based on your initiative. Don't try and create a comprehensive list of all available data, just a good list of possibilities. Often one data source can meet multiple needs and minimize new data collection as much as possible. For additional information on completing a data inventory of all available data, see the link for the Data-Driven Decision-Making Toolkit Conducting a School Inventory by WestEd on the Resource tab of this module. Next, let's consider student rosters. Student rosters provide demographic and achievement data on end of grade, end of course, and some K-2 end of year assessments, as well as access scores for English language learners. The rosters are available both at the end of the year and re-rostered for current students. Several years of achievement data are available in this one file. Thus, rosters provide a handy way to indicate which students received an intervention designed to improve achievement and analyze results over time. The rosters are available on Quicker under Student Lists. Check with your test coordinator or principal if you need to secure a file. Training describing the information included within the student roster, as well as how to utilize Microsoft Excel to extract information and summarize data on the student roster, is available on Blackboard. The SRN and course code for the student rosters course are available on the script of this lesson. You will need a way to capture information on who is served by your initiative, so that later you can determine if the participation in your program or initiative correlates to positive results. If you don't have an automatic way to find your program participants, such as everyone participating is enrolled in a course code, then you will want to create a form, possibly in Excel, for tracking program participants. A generic form is available on the Resource tab of this module. Note that the official name, as well as the NCWISE ID, are critical if you are going to find any data from other electronic files and put that data together. In addition, this form captures the student's school, the subjects of service, as well as the program entry and exit date. You may also want to capture attendance if your program is outside of school hours. You can also create an electronic file of potential students to be served from the student roster. Next, let's look at a student roster. The student roster already has the official student's name as well as the ID and some test scores, which saves time and improves accuracy of your file. This spreadsheet example provides an example of how additional columns indicating program participants' entry as well as exit date were added to a simplified version of the student roster. Adding program information to existing student rosters makes an examination of your students' results over time possible. The student rosters can be restricted by hiding or deleting unnecessary columns. If we consider our Miracle Math example shown here, columns were added to show the students' entry and exit dates. Blanks were then filtered out on the entry date to show just the program participants. If you're tracking more than one program on the same sheet, make sure that you label your columns appropriately. For Miracle Math, one intermediate goal was that the percentage of students at or above grade level, based on their end of grade, would increase from 0 to 70%. Thus, by considering a student's 5th grade EOG levels, we can see if all students served were indeed below grade level initially. Then, by examining their 6th grade scores, we can see how many of them moved to level 3 or 4. Then we are able to see if we in fact met our goal. Now, by looking at the scale scores, we can determine if the students who failed to reach the grade level proficiency were in fact close to achieving this goal. Furthermore, by reviewing their math academic change score, which represents a student's growth from one year to the next, you will know if the student at least made 1 year's worth of growth after 1 year's worth of instruction. Remember, training describing the information included in the student rosters and how to utilize Microsoft Excel to extract that information is available in the student rosters training on Blackboard. If only students with certain characteristics should be served, you can also filter this electronic file for those potential students such as level 1s and 2s and have students selected from that. Then only new students would need to be added to the file. Next, let's consider another data source. Staff survey results from the Teachers Working Conditions Survey are available for even-numbered years at ncteachingconditions.org. Additional survey information, such as professional learning teams and student surveys, can be obtained from Quicker under the survey link. Project records should be available from the program staff. In some cases, this is central services staff. If you're the program organizer, then you'll want to make sure that you have kept records that capture data such as the need that you were attempting to address, any external research on your program or initiative, as well as an implementation plan and staff and student participation rosters. Budget records should be available from the Budget Supervisor or Oracle. Finally, walkthroughs, interviews, focus groups, and/or new surveys may be new data you need to check on the implementation or perceptions of the effectiveness depending on your questions in your monitoring plan. You may also want to consider designing your own survey to capture teacher and/or student perceptions of your initiative or staff-reported use of materials or strategies, i.e. the level of implementation. Additional information on survey creation as well as some sample surveys are available under the resources for the Data and Accountability or Evaluation and Research intranet site. A sample walkthrough instrument is available on the Resource tab of this module. Now, when considering data you will need, make sure you will actually use everything you collect, otherwise don't collect it. Now that we have discussed the data sources that are available to you, our next step is to see which sources you can use to address your monitoring questions. So Lesson 3 will walk you through how to complete the information sources, or i.e. the data that you will be using to address each of your monitoring questions, and the how we accomplish this, or the ways of capturing and reflecting that data, columns within your plan. This quick resource location guide is a summary of the resources referred to within this lesson, and a paper copy is available to you by printing the last page of the script for this lesson. Thank you.